On to this week's big review, and it's AizerX from Keepforest. And this is actually two different libraries, but they're pretty similar in functionality, so I'm putting them together in one review. This collection consists of a Trailer Effects Designer Toolkit and the Modern Designer Toolkit. As I say, two separate products. You can buy them separately, but they're very similar. These load in the full version of Contact 5.7.3 and above, and use the new large-style Contact interface. Let's take a listen. In the interface, there are 6 slots for combining various combinations of effect samples, and these slots all have adjustable panning, ADSR, cutoff, tuning, stereo width, LFO, reversing, and lots more controls as well. There's also an XY pad in the middle to mix between 4 of these different sounds, whilst the other 2 play back. At the bottom of the interface, there's a timeline which you can use to set the triggering of the various samples, along with options for global ADSR and other controls. So basically you can stack up to 6 samples on top of one another, playing them back in all sorts of different ways. There's also a post effects rack here with 15 different effects and multiple LFOs and sequencer events. So that's a lot of control, and I haven't even mentioned everything that you can do, like the smart randomization, the browser window, assigning the mod wheel to XY control, or recording and playing back your own XY movements with the mouse. There's a lot here. There's also a mixer window for assigning playable effects on the upper keys, and if that all gets a bit too much for you, there's an easy mode which dispenses with some of the individual module controls. First off, the pros of this library, and I have to say I had a great time with these once I got the hang of what was going on, and beware, it might take you a couple of hours to get to grips with it. There's so much good stuff here that I don't really know what to point out first. The randomization is very smart, rarely throwing up anything other than effortlessly usable combinations. The sound browser and presets are all very well thought out with a pretty good range of different sounds, although they mostly have a kind of hybrid electronic vibe to them. They sound very modern, but obviously that's quite useful in this day and age. The easy transposing with the bottom keys and the clever way that you can play versions of the sounds with pre-roll and without did impress me immensely. Although the interface is busy, it's great to be able to see all of the waveforms playing back at the same time, and that really helps to visualize what's going on with the sounds. These libraries reward time spent with them to get to know exactly how they work and to learn how to apply the various automation to make the sounds your own. I must give a special mention to the Kits patch, which is bundled with the Modern Trailer Toolkit, and this is a great selection of pre-mixed and performed one-shots and sequences for percussion and effects. And this is something I found which is actually missing in my personal arsenal, so I think I'll get a lot of use out of that. Now onto the cons, and the thing I'll point out first is that I think these instruments are somewhat over-designed, partly in how they operate, but also in the design of the interface themselves. Just look at the FX rack as an example. There's so many superfluous graphics here that at first glance, it's quite difficult to tell what's a dial or button and what isn't, especially as some of them are the same colour as the background. There's also quite a lot of wasted space in the FX rack, especially as you have to scroll up and down to see all of the different FX slots, despite there being loads of room either side and below the rack itself. It's not the very worst interface I've ever seen, take about Ghosts of Autumn, but some rudimentary changes could have clarified things immensely. There have been some grumbles online about the size of the controls on the main page, and there are a lot of controls there for the various interface sections. However, with other products that I've reviewed, I've often mentioned that I don't like scrolling through interface pages to get at what I need. And with AizerX, you can see every dial and button up front. Granted, they're tiny, but I can't have it both ways, so Keepforest gets a pass on this occasion. So in conclusion, and this is a long conclusion, these two libraries offer the modern trailer and sound designer cutting-edge sounds with a very flexible, if rather busy, interface. Competitors like the Sculptor range from Gothic Instruments do a similar thing, but not in such a complex way. So I have three main concerns with these instruments. Firstly, that the learning curve is steep. I haven't seen the completed manual as it wasn't ready at the time of this review, but I do hope it will be comprehensive enough to cover everything in a logical way. The second concern is the price for the raw amount of content on offer. Full price for each module is $300 to $400, and you could buy an awful lot of individual effects samples for that price, although you won't have nearly the amount of flexibility with the AizerX engine. My last concern is actually the sounds themselves and the longevity of this library. These sounds really are bleeding edge effects sounds, so they're really up to date. They've got a sharp resonant tone, which is perfect for trailer scoring right now, but this might slip out of fashion in a couple of years. If it sounds like I'm down on these libraries, I'm really not, and I really enjoyed using them, but I have to be fully aware that as a tool for crazy and fun experimentation, which has been sent to me for free, I had a blast. But obviously people are going to have to buy these libraries and it'll be a major cash and time investment for somebody else. So I do want that person to get their money's worth. There's more information about AizerX at the Keepforest website. Thank you so much for watching. That's just a small taste of the Samplecast, a weekly podcast and YouTube show for sample library geeks and plugin enthusiasts. You can find out more information at thesamplecast.com. Don't forget to subscribe.